How you going? Pardon the video for being late, bit of shenanigans I have to deal with. But today I'll be showing off how to paint and base a relatively cheap and a very easily do a beachside or ocean front or any sort of just flat beach areas for your miniatures. But anyway, let's get into it. Now, first off, before you put down anything, you're going to want to apply any sort of sunken in objects that you want to do, in which case I've just used a razorback door and I've just propped it up with a little bit of sprue underneath and then primed that in a grey. Now, first off with the door, I'm just going to be just painting it in a simple lead belcher. Now, first off with the painting, I'm just starting off with a Bathroff blue, and in this case, it's in being heavily diluted, so I have to put on quite a few layers. I do suggest, if you are going to try and recreate this, to sand down where you want the water to be, so it's just easier to be applied. Otherwise, the water is going to look all bumpy in that when it's applied, unless you want to have a more thicker paint. In that case, you want to thicken it up quite a bit, so it's not really as visible. Once that is all dried, I've then gone over to show off a more of a deeper section of the water with an RMN blue, and of course I'm just going to be base coating that section once again, several layers over and over and over again till it's all nice uniform color. Now after those two colors are done, just to blend them to, you want to start by wet blending a lot of these colors. First off, I just go back over with a Bathroff blue just to push out the water a bit more, and then once that is still wet, I go back over with RMN and just start mixing it all in the center and swiping from left to right. Don't do up and down, otherwise it looks not really as realistic. Do a left to right motion, as you can see, and then eventually once you have a sort of blended to however you like it, and of course we're going to add the waves over top just to tie everything together a bit more. Back over to the metal door now, I'm just quickly slapping on just a really quick coat of dirty down rust, and then after that just drying it off with a hairdryer just to give it a rusty effect. Now over to the sand now, I'm going to be using the Vallejo acrylic ground texture for grey sand, and this is going to be the fine grain sand. And of course, just to build up volume right now, this stuff is going to dry a little bit smaller than it is, so you want to apply a very thick coat, and I'm just globbing it on all over with a super bad junk brush, which is actually pretty good for using as terrain paste. Now, as you can see here, I'm doing very fine motor skills with the sand. I don't have a spatula, so I can't really smooth it out as much, but I still want the ripples in the sand so it looks somewhat realistic. And what I'm going to be doing, I'm just using a drunk brush, and I'm slowly pulling my brush along to the right or the left without lifting it off the sand. Since it is a paste, when you do lift it off, it leaves off quite a large spike, unless you're going for that effect, which I'm not, so I want everything to be smooth, in which case I'm just lightly dabbing and pulling to the left or right without removing contact from the sand. Now I'm just positioning for the final sort of position as where I want the armature to be, and I'm just going to be sticking it directly into the sand. No need for glue or anything like that. And as if anyone has walked down at the beach knows, get sand all over your feet for some reason, even though you swear you don't get it on top. And in this case, I'm just applying just a little bit of sand over the, I guess you would call toes or digits on the feet, just to make it a little bit more realistic. And now, as you can see, the sand has shrunk just a little bit, as well as really like solidly glued in the model to the base. I don't really need any sort of super glue or anything like that, so it's pretty much just a positive for using any sort of that sand stuff. And now, just to tie up the water so it's not really a stark contrast difference, I'm going in with a long but circular sort of brush. It's more of a wider brush with a flared end since it's a bit older, and I'm just going in with a diluted white scar, and I'm just ever so slightly layering on the white scar to make it look like foam along the beach side, so it's a bit blended in a bit better. And then of course I'll be adding another layer of that just over where the blending of the darker and lighter blue is, as I really didn't do that much of a good job compared to my other model. And of course, just finishing off with rimming up the whole model by adding a black along the rim of the base. Now for the sand, there are two different versions, and in this case I'm using the fine grain sand. There is a rougher version which is more like gravel, which that one is crap. But for this case, the jar was like $20 Australian, and you get 200 mils, which you could probably paint an entire army if it's just a standard army, or probably get through like a couple of knights and maybe a couple of large ones in that case. But overall, I think it's not too bad design. Plus, it didn't really take me that long, and it's quite easy to begin with. And of course, as that as an entry level, you can eventually modify the idea or continue on using different products, and in the end, improving your base. But that's all I got for now. Catch you around next time. See ya.